That's right. We're back again. I'm a little under the weather, so don't mind my voice. I'm going to try and avoid the sniffles as much as I can. I got my little mute button right here. So, yesterday was the Metropolitan Economic Development Committee, also known as the MED. Theirs was just over an hour long. So we're going to get into this in a second, but first things first, there will be a big announcement tomorrow. Some of you already know what it is. I will be posting it on my Twitter, which is Witty Reviews and at Twitter. And kind of excited. It's going to be fun. You're going to love it. You're going to love it, trust me. But anyway, let's get into it.
I will now call to order the Metropolitan and Economic Development Committee to order for Monday, February 12th. We'll begin with introductions of my colleagues, starting on the front row.
Hi, Derek Cahill, District 23. Thank you, Madam Chair.
What are you doing, huh? What are you doing, huh?
Thank you,
You
Madam
flirting
Chair.
over there?
Michael
Huh?
Palhart, District 20.
Flirting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ron Gibson, District 8.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brienne Delaney, District 2.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kristen Jones, District 18.
Hey,
Thank you, Madam Chair. Lakeisha Jackson.
Where's Jared
District
Evans at?
15, represent Warren and Lawrence Townships on the far east side.
Lovely.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Leader. Leroy Robinson, District 1.
Thank you, Councilor Maggie Lewis, District 5. We have four proposals before us this evening.
Even the
first
camera's like,
proposal number 44 reappoints Michael James to the Metropolitan Development Commission. Mr. James will not be in attendance this evening. However, you do have his attendance record and his bio and resume. Are there questions from councilors regarding the reappointment of Michael James?
Why wasn't he there?
Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to proposal number 44?
Yo, Larry Vaughn, let's go.
I would like to ask Mr. James if he were here. I was very disturbed when I went to have some work done at a FedEx the other day, and I got the receipt, and it had a district tax, a county tax, and a city tax. Now, I was wondering, this is Mr. James, if you're watching now, or you people at home, these taxes would be added on to whatever we pay as a state sales tax, and they could go up to over 10%. So I just want to ask that one question to Mr. James.
Thank you,
He's
Mr.
not here to
Vaughn. You need
answer,
to
but
speak to
the question's
proposal.
out there.
Madam Clerk, do you mind reading our statement of conduct before we continue, please, and thank you.
Larry Vaughn is the best. I don't care what anybody says.
As we move to the public comment portion of debate for this proposal, we would like to remind committee members and the public of a few ground rules. In order for everyone to have a fair chance to speak and be heard, it is important that we each observe the following ground rules. First, each speaker will be limited to 2 minutes. Second, any public comments must reasonably relate to the agenda item under consideration. Third, speakers who stray from the item under consideration or become unduly repetitious may be asked to move on to their next point or conclude their comments. Finally, attendees who cause disruptions that prevent the council from proceeding through today's agenda in a reasonably efficient manner will be removed. Please remember that some types of threatening speech or incitement to violence aren't protected by the First Amendment. We will deal with those issues if they arise, but we don't expect they will. And now, Madam Chair, if a committee member asks for consent to adopt these rules, we can proceed to public comments.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any additional comments regarding proposal number 44? Councilor Delaney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do we have any reason why Mr. James is not here?
Oh.
Reappointments aren't required to come to the hearings unless we deem necessary, so there was no reason for him to be here this evening.
So he just didn't come? Is that what you're saying? There wasn't a reason why he's not here. He just didn't come.
I didn't invite, again, reappointments.
Were they gonna come?
Traditionally aren't required to come back. Every now and then we'll have them come back, but again, I just didn't ask any of the reappointments to be here this evening.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
She's so mad.
Jackson.
Madam Chair, I move proposal number 44, 2024, to reappoint Michael James to the Metropolitan Development Commission to the full council.
Second.
The motion has been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Again, Councilor Delaney and others, again, before this committee, we'll invite them back at various times throughout the year, but again, I did not ask for reappointments to be here this evening. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Leader. Also, Council, on this Public Safety Committee, which you're on, I do require it, public safety. We didn't at first, but then we got a lot of questions, and we said, you know what? So I have mine come back. So all of them just come back. So different committee chairs do different things. I know on your committee with me, we have them come
Different folks, different strokes.
I said he's going to come back at some point, Mr. Chairman. Councilor Delaney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to express that, one, I know the other appointee is here. Two, there have been some issues in my district concerning the MDC, and these are our appointments, and so I was just hoping that both of them would be here this evening, and that we would have the chance to question them and talk to them since they are our appointments to the MDC. So thank you.
Yeah, and should you ever have an issue like that or concern, if you let me know in advance, I'm happy to invite.
Yo,
any
Jared's
back to
here.
the committee.
And I thank you, since I am new, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Additional comments?
5.5 minutes into the meeting.
I can't recall if we actually voted or not now. We didn't vote? Okay. We did vote? Okay, so the motion did carry. Again, so the next item on our, actually, before we do that, Councilor Evans, if you'd like to introduce yourself, sir.
Thank you, Leader Lewis. I apologize for being tardy. Councilor Jared Evans, representing District 17.
This is the same thing that Jesse did. He was late to work. Jared doesn't have a job. There's really no excuse for him to be late.
Thank you, Councilor. The next item on our agenda is proposal number 45, reappoints Daniel Moriarty to the Metropolitan Development Commission. Again, you have his attendance record before you, his resume and bio. Questions, comments regarding the reappointment? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to proposal number 45?
Where you at, Larry?
Madam Chairman, I'm being as relevant as I can, and I think that the persons were here tonight that these questions were to be asked to, but since they're not here, I just wanted to be on the records. So if in a time in the future they want to look back and see the questions that I asked, they can find those in the records. But I'll just restate the same question that I asked the former applicant, and I just want to know how they felt about this district tax, the city tax, and a county tax that are showing up on our receipts now. And I think when the statute was passed over the State House, they could go as high as 10%. So we're already paying 10% now. So I think that it would just be a good thing for the city council to be honest and transparent if they're going to impose these three taxes. It's a district tax, it's a city tax, and it's a county tax. Those are three sales tax. You people at home that's added on to the already 10%. I just want to.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I just want to know if they approve them or not.
Got noted. Thank you. Additional comments regarding proposal number 45.
You know what though? He has a point. That's one of the things that I ran on was transparency in the city council.
Seeing none, Councilor Delaney.
Thank you. And I just want to make it clear, I do see Dan Moriarty out in the audience, and just want to recognize that he is here this evening.
Jeez.
Additional comments from council.
So petty. What is going on right now?
Thank you. Madam Majority Leader, I'd like to move proposal number 45, 2024, to reappoint Daniel Moriarty to the Metropolitan Development Commission to the full council.
The motion has been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Thank you. The motion carries.
So, Brianne Delaney is married to Tim Moriarty. If you remember, Tim Moriarty ran for Marion County prosecutor, but lost the primary against Brian Mears. So I'm not sure if Dan Moriarty is related to Tim Moriarty, but I got a sneaky suspicion they are, because Brianne Delaney is throwing a big old Hufflepuff about it.
The next item on our agenda is proposal number 46, appoints Christopher Robinson to the Animal Service Advisory Board. If you'd like to come forward and share why you're interested in serving in this capacity.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here and to be considered for your appointment to the IACS Advisory Board. My name is Chris Roberson. I'm an attorney with a master's in public health with a focus in policy. I've worked for a local Indianapolis nonprofit healthcare clinic for the past 20 years, and over the past year and a half, I've been volunteering at IACS. I've also spent that time trying to really learn as much as I can about animal welfare in our city. Much like every one of you, I love Indianapolis. I moved here just over 20 years ago and have been so proud of the tremendous progress that the city has made on many fronts, especially including metropolitan and economic development. I've also come to really appreciate that the city depends on having engaged residents who want to be part of seeing change in our city and being part of continued progress. And that's why I'm here and interested in serving on the IECS Advisory Board. I can tell you from my firsthand experience, animal welfare is one area that we have not made enough progress on. Our city is in crisis when it comes to animal welfare. We have a serious problem with overpopulation of dogs specifically that is fueled by unregulated backyard breeding, which is both bad for public safety and general welfare, but it also has overwhelmed our city shelter, and it's caused them to operate in crisis mode for years. I think it's important to convey that and to emphasize it to you, but I won't dwell on it because I'm also very optimistic that we are well positioned to effectuate change and see progress in this regard. As you know, the city and philanthropic leaders in the community have invested in and are committed to building a long overdue new shelter. Abby Brands and ICS leadership and others in the animal welfare community have also initiated a very broad community-based strategic plan related to animal welfare in our city. And I've also worked with Abby Brands and ICS leadership and others in the animal welfare space to look at our municipal code, to look at the animal welfare sections of our Indianapolis Municipal Code, and I've talked to several city county council persons as well to identify areas where we can make progress. So I'm, again, optimistic that we can make change. I would be honored to be the conduit between all of those organizations and entities and this committee. I would be very committed to making judicious use of your time and only bringing forth prudent, pragmatic policy recommendations, as well as bringing forth strategically developed and thoughtful recommendations or requests for any additional resources that may be
Jeez,
needed
man,
in this
you
regard.
keep yapping.
And then finally, to any of the city county council, we would welcome and love to have you all come and visit the shelter, much like Councilors Barth and Roberts did earlier last week. I promise you it will
What did they
solidify your
do?
commitment
Nothing. They
to
just
not
walked
only
around
improving
it.
the conditions at IECS, but to addressing this larger animal welfare crisis. Thank you very much. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much. Questions, comments from councilors? Councilor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Roberson lives in my district, and I know him very well. He certainly has the credentials and the love and respect for animals and knows how we should treat all of our animals in a humane way. And so I would hope you all would join me in voting for Mr. Robertson for this appointment.
Thank you, Councilor. Additional comments? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to proposal number 46?
Madam Chair, my only concern is whenever I come through a newly developed area like Fountain Square or any other place where they have a dense population, there is a large amount of animals in that space. Now, God forbid another economic turndown. Our shelters, no matter how new and modern and high-tech they are, will not be able to deal with the deluge of abandoned pets. So I'm not looking forward to that, but that's something that I could see happening in the near future in an economic downturn.
Additional comments regarding proposal number 46?
Plus, where's the new shelter at?
Councilor Gibson.
Madam Chair, I move that we move proposal number 46, appoints Christopher Roberson to the Animal Services Advisory Board to the full council for final adoption.
Second.
The motion has been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Thank you so much for your willingness to serve. The next item on our agenda is proposal number 47, approves the amounts, locations, operations of certain projects to be funded from the Community Development Grant Funds.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Can y'all hear me okay? I feel like I'm far away. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for allowing us to be here tonight to present this proposal. My name is Jenny Foltz, and I am currently serving in dual capacity with the City of Indianapolis. I am the administrator of our Division of Community Investments in the Department of Metropolitan Development, and currently I'm also the interim director of the Department of Metropolitan Development. And with me tonight is Beth Neville. She will be presenting along with me, and I will allow her to introduce herself.
Good evening. My name is Beth Neville, and I'm the Principal Program Manager of Strategic Investments with the Department of Metropolitan Development.
We are here tonight seeking approval of Proposal 47, which approves the amounts, locations, and programmatic operation of projects to be funded with community development grant funds. And before we jump into the 2024 action plan, which includes the funding allocations, we would like to provide a bit of a background and a more general overview of affordable housing. DMD has a variety of priorities when reviewing proposals for affordable housing and community development. Some of these are place-based and neighborhood-oriented, while others are more specific to the structure of the projects themselves. We prioritize funding projects that are located near multimodal transportation opportunities, like trails, bike lanes, and transit stops. We encourage developments located in areas that have access to neighborhood services such as grocery stores, schools, and healthcare. And we really push projects to have units available to lower income households, have a variety of bedroom counts and unit types, and explore sustainability features. And these are just a few of our funding priorities. Our team evaluates projects individually and holistically to determine how to best allocate these limited resources. Today, we are focusing on funding that comes from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, but the grants in Proposal 47 are just one set of tools within our affordable housing toolbox. Depending on the financial structure of the project, the location, the population the project aims to serve, staff recommends the most appropriate funding mechanism for the project, whether that be tax increment financing, home funds, or some other funding mechanism. It is also important to note that DMD is not the only funder within the affordable housing space. The Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority is responsible for administering the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program, which is another funding tool used for affordable housing development. The Federal Home Loan Bank of Indianapolis has the AHP, or Affordable Housing Program, that they administer. The Indianapolis Neighborhood Housing Partnership deploys the Equitable Transit-Oriented Development Program, or ETOD, to preserve sites for the preservation or creation of affordable housing.
ETOD.
Affordable housing and community development projects are complex and often involve multiple tools from a variety of funders. This has been an interesting time in affordable housing. Inflation has caused major challenges for projects, making it even more difficult to get these deals done. Since COVID, there have been labor market and supply chain challenges, and increases in rents have caused major challenges for our homelessness service providers to be able to serve the same number of people with similar levels of federal funding. There have also been some changes happening with IHCDA's Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program. This most recent year, they moved the 4% LIHTC round to a competitive process for the first time ever. There are also new state housing tax credits, which never existed before, and IHCDA has released new information about the upcoming application round, so DMD staff will be working to update our processes to align.
Who gets those tax credits? Because I got a feeling it's not the consumer.
Oops. Okay, sorry. Affordable housing can have a lot of different definitions depending on the program. The programs included in the action plan that we're discussing today have income restrictions for participating households. Households who participate must be below 80% of the area median income as defined by HUD. So a household of 4 would need to earn no more than $77,350 to be eligible.
You know what's crazy about that? Just a household of 1. That's like $26 an hour at 40 hours a week, no overtime, 52 weeks a year.
These
Crazy.
income limits are defined by HUD and are updated each year. And there are some programs that have lower income restrictions, but the 80% is the general number that we are using. And then DMD's affordable housing investment include homeownership, rental, and permanent supportive housing projects. We aim to increase the supply of affordable homeownership opportunities by developing new housing, rehabbing existing housing, and assisting homeowners with essential home repairs. We aim to increase the supply of affordable rental housing through the development of new multifamily developments, as well as the preservation of existing affordable housing. We also aim to create more permanent supportive housing units for households experiencing homelessness, and these units are paired with funding for wraparound services and case management.
So taxpayer money is going into fixing up somebody else's house. Weird. I don't like it.
We also wanted to use this time to provide an update on DMD's overall affordable housing portfolio with a few key highlights.
Gonna circle right here. TWG, big time campaign donor, Joe Hawk said.
One of which is an ARPA-funded project that was just recently awarded low-income housing tax credits. TWG will be developing the Grand Meridian project with 94 total units along the Red Line BRT, and this project received both pilot and ARPA funding from DMD. It will have 45 units for persons at 60% of the AMI, 19 units for households at 50% of AMI, and 29 units for households at 30% of AMI. Next, we have Arnold Place, which is a 33-unit townhome ownership development that's going to be developed by INHP. 51% of the units in this development will be for households below 80% of the median family income. This will be the first project out of DMD's 25th and Monon plan, and followed by the 2022 Colonial Bakery RFP. The project is receiving an allocation of $1.8 million in ARPA, as well as $8 million of new tax credit, or new markets tax credit allocation. It was recently announced that Bridges Townhomes will be receiving 9% low-income housing tax credits. Inglewood CDC, Gratis Development, Wheeler Mission, and Adult and Child are partnering on this integrated permanent supportive housing project. There will be 43 total units developed on Sherman Park, with 10 of these units being reserved for families experiencing homelessness. And this project is receiving $1.5 million in ARPA funds, as well as a pilot.
That's crazy because Sherman Park, last I checked, they needed $12 million worth of repairs before anything could even be built on it.
And the last project that we wanted to highlight today is M22 Apartments. This is a partnership between Crestline Development and Near North Development Corporation. Located at 22nd and Meridian, this is within a Lyft Indy geography and located at the Red Line BRT stop. There will be 127 total units, with 75 affordable to households at or below 80% of the median income. This project is receiving a pilot in addition to $1.65 million in home funding, which is part of the action plan before you tonight. Just want to clarify that the $650,000 is in this year's action plan, and the other $1 million was in the 2023 action plan that we brought before you all last year. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Beth.
Okay, so there are 4 grants that are part of the action plan, which we are here seeking your approval on tonight. Those 4 grants are the Home Investments Partnership Program, the Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG, the Emergency Solutions Grant, or ESG, and then the Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS Grant, also known as HOPWA.
Well, got
so
it.
these are all grants that are awarded to the city from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, based on formulas. The home grant can only be used for affordable housing. We can use these funds to construct new housing or rehabilitate existing housing, and it can be for both rental and homeownership.
That's crazy to me that taxpayer money is being used to help fix somebody else's home. Like, what that money could have went to, it probably could have done a whole lot better. Plus, I see money laundering it.
We're also able to use home funds for down payment assistance and tenant-based rental assistance as well. The key to the home program is that it can be used for affordable housing for households earning less than 80% of the area median income. And we anticipate receiving approximately $4 million in home funds come 2024. The CDBG grant, we're anticipating receiving about $9 million each year. It's the most flexible grant of the ones that the city receives from HUD, and it can be used for affordable housing, economic development initiatives, social services, and more. Although this grant is more flexible, it still has a lot of regulations and restrictions that we must follow. For example, no more than 15% of the CDBG grant can be used for public service activities. And similarly to home, we can only serve households who fall below 80% of the area median income. Next is the Emergency Solutions Grant, which typically we receive about $800,000 a year. And this grant must be used to assist people experiencing homelessness or households that are at imminent risk of losing their housing. ESG can be used to provide supportive services, homelessness prevention, operating support, and rapid rehousing. The HOPWA grant is about $1.3 million each year, and these funds must be used to provide housing assistance and supportive services to persons with HIV or AIDS. HOPWA is particularly unique due to its service area. For context, the service area for home, CDBG, and ESG is Marion County, with the exception of the excluded cities of Southport, Beech Grove, Speedway, and Lawrence. But HOPWA is different. HOPWA's service area, as mandated by HUD, includes 11 other counties. So that one's a little bit different, and you'll see IU Bloomington as one of the grantees within the proposal. We've also included the Continuum of Care grant on this slide. It's part of our overall DMD affordable housing portfolio, but it's not actually part of the action plan. The Continuum of Care grant is competitive, and our team is responsible for applying for it each year from HUD. It's focused on supportive services and housing assistance for individuals and households experiencing homelessness. Thank you.
I want to know how
So
much
the
money it
funding
is.
that's part of the action plan, that includes home, CDBG, ESG, and HOPWA. And all are formula
HOPWA.
grants given to the City of Indianapolis from HUD. The action plan itself is an annual process that's informed by our 5-year consolidated plan. HUD requires that the city completes a consolidated plan once every 5 years, and it's developed through a community process. The consolidated plan provides an analysis of housing and community development needs, identifies priorities, and sets forth a strategic plan for how the city will utilize federal grants over the next 5-year period. So our current consolidated plan was completed in 2019. It covers our 2020 through 2024 program years. So this is actually the last year under this consolidated plan. So you all can anticipate hearing more about a new consolidated plan coming in the future months. The action plan is our annual plan to HUD and identifies the specific projects and programs each year. So again, we are here tonight seeking approval of Proposal 47, which approves this year's action plan. In order to select projects for funding through the action plan, DMD hosts a number of competitive application processes. Our team releases applications, and organizations throughout the city interested in applying for funding respond to these processes by submitting an application with those required documents. This process is informed by a review committee, and that review committee is comprised of a variety of internal staff members and non-conflicted external stakeholders and industry experts.
I'm sure it is.
Projects have to apply for us to fund it for funding, and we evaluate projects based on shovel readiness and feasibility. These grants are highly regulated and require a great deal of staff and financial capacity to administer. It's also important to know that these are reimbursement-based grants. So projects have to incur costs, submit documentation to our team to review for compliance, and then get reimbursed for eligible expenses. HUD also requires that we comply with certain commitment and expenditure deadlines, and so shovel readiness is one of the most important components when reviewing applications. In the attachment, you'll see a number of projects listed under Lift Indy projects. Lift Indy is an initiative that was launched in 2017 to help spur comprehensive development and preserve affordable housing options in specific areas of our city. Lift Indy designations were awarded to proposals that could show a comprehensive approach to neighborhood-based community challenges. So through the Lift Indy initiative, approximately $3.5 million of CDBG and home funds were allocated to each of those designated areas over a 3-year period. Lift Indy designations are now starting to sunset. We still have a few outstanding projects to wrap up, and the last 3 will continue their designations and projects for a few more years. But as funding has shifted and community development challenges have changed radically in recent years, DMD has pivoted from Lift Indy to a new initiative.
What's it called?
You may have heard of Vacant to Vibrant. That was a program that launched last spring in 2023. That program was a pilot that utilized ARPA dollars to facilitate the creation of affordable housing opportunities on DMD's inventory of vacant properties. The Vacant to Vibrant initiative prioritized developing housing opportunities for lower income households. As the market has shifted, it has become more and more difficult for low and moderate income households to achieve home ownership. And we were also aiming to spur more missing middle housing types, so more neighborhood scale density within our communities. Residents that were in areas of high concentrations of proposals, so neighborhoods that were getting lots of proposals through this Vacant to Vibrant initiative, they were engaged by DMD staff to provide feedback on those proposals, and that helped to inform review committee decisions. So through that initiative, DMD...
Hold on. They missed something here. I thought she was going to bring it up, but she didn't. 3 groups of neighborhood residents based on geographic region: west, northeast, and east. Are those the only ones that they're allowed to check out, or what?
Decisions. So through that initiative, DMD ended up issuing 10 awards for over $5 million for the development of 49 units of affordable rental, homeownership, and lease-to-purchase housing. Vacant to Vibrant was unique because it was a pilot that paired a funding application with an application for properties all in one. So we continued that process from Vacant to Vibrant in our most recent home and CDBG application rounds, and we plan to continue doing so in order to help streamline our processes for partners and hopefully help develop more housing more quickly. So this slide shows a summary of different types of projects.
AIDS gets $2.2 million.
Funding in the 2024 HUD grant dollars through the action plan. The vast majority of projects are going towards affordable housing, and so that includes the ownership, rental, homelessness, and the HOPWA line items.
Look at that. They're getting $2.5 million for administration costs. That's hilarious.
Included in this proposal are also job training and youth employment projects, parks projects, homeowner repair, food access, and more. And you can find the specific information in the packets. And then here's just another quick way.
Can you believe that?
Way to view that breakdown.
13% of that budget is for housing for persons with AIDS.
And more. And you can find the specific information in the packets. And then here's just another quick way to view that breakdown. The big dark blue, that's all of our affordable housing initiatives, which account for about 2/3 of our funding this year. As a note, the administration line item, which is in gray in the pie chart above, I guess the lighter gray that's larger, that covers our staff costs as well as certain long-range planning activities and also fair housing activities. If you're going to go to the next slide.
So much money laundering.
So here's a map. It's very hard to see on this, and I think the packets themselves may be a little easier to see. This is a map of our current active as well as the proposed 2024 projects that are home and CDBG funded. As a note, you'll see in the legend on the map a thing called the NRSA. That is a neighborhood revitalization strategy area.
Boy, look at all that stuff happening in downtown
where we
north
have more
and
flexibility with the regulations. We are not limited to funding projects only in that geography. We are, however, limited to serving only projects within the city limits of Indianapolis, with the exception of HOPWA, but we can't fund those projects again in those excluded cities. There are also several projects that serve the entire county. For example, homeowner repair, employment training, and down payment assistance are all available countywide, as well as HOPWA and ESG, those countywide initiatives for those populations that meet the requirements of those programs.
And to wrap up, just to let you know kind of where we are with the action plan, we did release a draft action plan for public comment. That public comment ended today, February 12th.
Like anybody
So
knew
far,
about it
we
anyway.
have not received any public comments.
Shocker.
The regulatory submission day is February 15th. However, we will not be able to submit that until we have a federal budget that has passed and award letters have been issued to the city. Just want you all to know that we've met every regulatory requirement and step to be able to submit the moment that those award letters are dropped. And with that, we would open it up to any questions you may have.
Questions, comments from counselors? Counselor Evans.
Thank you, Leader Lewis. Sound like a broken record, because I've said this probably 4 or 5 years running now. And I'll be as polite and kind as I can be, because I would really like to just throw this action plan, because every single year that I think I've been on this council, it seems like the West Side just gets forgotten. And the last time I checked, there are people who need affordable housing just as much there as they do on the east side. Let me not read all of the Indy Lift programs that I just saw. East, north, nothing on the west. It's just ridiculous. And Jenny, I don't want to, I know that stuff's above you, and you have to sit here and take it. Your directors are gone. Otherwise, I'd be yelling at them and giving them the lashing on this. It's just ridiculous. Because I think I have literally brought this up every single year. And it makes me not want to support this.
You should have
While
done.
there's some good for the rest of the city, I'm tired of the West Side really getting screwed over.
You're not going to do anything, Jared.
And I don't need a comment. I don't want excuses.
Listen, I'm not shilling for, the MEDC, but developers have to come to them for it. I mean, I guess you could work in that they could go to developers and say, hey, we got this plot of land. You might be able to get some tax benefits off of it. But she even said a little bit ago that they send in paperwork to try and get those tax credits, and they have to go through them with a fine-tooth comb. Otherwise, the city, the taxes, they have to pay them then. And if they mess up the paperwork. So it's not entirely on them. It has to be the developers that go and ask for it.
Counselor Delaney.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually had a similar question, although I'm a new counselor, so I don't have a history to it. But looking at the map
Look at Gibson.
that is provided to us,
This kid is
on a
getting a
couple
little too much
slides
for
near
him.
the end, the CDBG and home active projects in 2024. I was really delighted to see that there is one project that's coming up into District 2 on the very edge, but it does seem like most of the affordable housing projects are concentrated in the center of the city, and I know that housing it struggles even for folks up in my district, in District 2.
What? Listen, Center Town, they're focusing all the effort on Center Township because that's like their creme de la creme. But District 2, I know where she lives. It's in a pretty high-priced area. I don't know if she's talking all of District 2, but she can't relate to what the normies are. Well, let me pull this up real quick. All right. First off, we gotta get that. We're gonna go. All right, let's see if I can do this. I have a little write-up on her. All right. First off, she lives in the Meridian Hills neighborhood. All right. Just check on Zillow real quick, and you can see all the homes that are for sale near her. 1.68 million, 715K, 328K, 1.2 million, half a mil, 973K. Meridian home average over half a mil. You can't relate to what us normies are having to deal with every day. But I went a little bit farther on that because this is fun with campaign money time. She raised over $110,000 in campaign donations last year. And look, 23,000 to the Indiana Democratic Party, and then over 34. This is just one little snapshot, but it was well over $35,000 that she gave to this Berlin Rosen. And who is Berlin Rosen? Well, they happen to be Mayor de Blasio, Bill de Blasio, old Billy D. It's his PR company. Kind of funny, right? How all this makes sense. And I wouldn't doubt that these developers, that they're giving handshakes and hand jobs to some of these committee members if you went down the rabbit hole of campaign finance.
So I just wanted to know what, just generally, if you could educate on why the projects are more concentrated in the center of the city.
Sure. I do believe that, we do have some projects throughout on the map. Just a couple things to reiterate. These are competitive application process. Organizations have to apply to be able to be considered for funding. We have met with multiple organizations, and some of them end up submitting and some of them don't. As Beth had mentioned in her portion of the presentation, they are, these programs come with very complicated regulations.
There you go.
And some folks, after we talk to them, make the decision not to apply.
There we go.
In addition to that, they are reimbursement basis, which means the organizations have to have the cash flow to be able to carry out these projects and be able to wait to be reimbursed for them. That is regulatory.
There we go.
But if there are organizations within your district or any of your districts that have an interest, our staff meets with those types of organizations all the time, and we would be happy to do that. We've also do have a new organization who is part of this 2024 action plan, and that came from a partnership that they created with another nonprofit organization to build that capacity. So that's another way that we try to encourage new organizations to come to the table.
There you go. Exactly what I just said. It's not their job to go and seek out developers. Developers are trying to get a tax credit off this thing. So if it doesn't work out for them, there you go. You want to change something, change the regulations then.
And I hope I answered your question. If not, please let me know and I can expound.
You have, and I know I communicated with you via email, given that I had some previous experience in community development. And maybe this is off topic, so you can say that, but is the city doing anything to help build organizations so that they can become more competitive? Because I do understand how difficult it can be to meet all of these requirements, as you just stated, but what are we doing to help organizations to be able to meet all these requirements?
Give them the information.
Yeah, so we have trainings that we provide. We have online trainings that are available to the public. We also have written policies and procedures that are available on our website. And most importantly, we just meet with organizations, and we do a lot of one-on-one trainings. It's very time consuming, but it's also very important because if we are out of compliance or we don't carry these programs out correctly, it could potentially mean a payback to the federal government. We do not want that. If we do have to pay back funds, it would have to come from a local source, which DMD, as many of you know, do not have those funds available to repay. So compliance and following those regulations is extremely important.
This is how out of touch these people are. When you're pushing pencils all day and you don't understand how the real world works, nobody would have ever had to ask that. What's the government doing so we make it more competition? You're giving the developers information on how to file for these tax credits, and what else do you want from them? It's like, are you going to be reaching out to every developer? Hey, we got all these tax credits, but it has to go through a very stringent, complicated process. And a lot of these people just don't care. And these developers are taking a gamble that they might not get a reimbursement off of it. And if they don't, then they might lose money off of it. Not likely, but they won't make as much of a profit on it. And then now she's saying is if they mess up or it goes out of the bounds of the regulations, the process, then the taxpayers have to foot the bill instead. She might be one of the top 5 worst counselors on here.
Yeah, and if I can also add too, I think the capacity building piece is a concern to a lot of different organizations and funders in town as well. And so we've been having conversations with other funders to try and have more of an understanding of that capacity building piece. So it's certainly on our radars, and we intend to continue those conversations with other funders and other organizations that interact in that space around nonprofit capacity building.
Thank you.
Councillor Hart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So when I'm looking through this, and I'll have to, kind of echo Councilor Evans here. I've seen this the last 4 years too, and it has been a common theme in being centered in the downtown of Indianapolis. But I did pick up on something this time around that'll be different going into next year, which is, and I expect we would see it this year, which is the consolidated plan. With that, kind of a two-part question. First part of that question is, what is your process for analyzing what is working and what's not within the annual action plan? And then 2, what is the plan to broaden the distribution to the broader Marion County in that next consolidated plan?
Very good questions. The first thing is that we are required to complete a consolidated annual performance and evaluation report. That is a mouthful. We call it the CAPER for short.
CAPER.
The CAPER includes a lot of different financial reports, and it also reports outcomes and performance measures. And one of the things we look at annually, did we meet our annual goals? And then we also look at our 5-year goals that were established through that consolidated plan process. And are we working towards those goals? I will tell you, this last consolidated plan has been a challenge with the global pandemic. And costs increasing, interest rates increasing. So we did miss the mark on some of our goals, and we still have 2 more years of reporting because we are still in our 2023 HUD year. It doesn't end until March 31st. So we'll be anxious to see, but we do evaluate that on an annual basis. And then as we move into 2025 consolidated planning, we are just now starting to create our community outreach and stakeholder interviews, and that will be a big part of that. That will inform that consolidated plan. You all will be engaged in that. We hope that you will be engaged in that process. We will be reaching out to you. And it really comes down to, again, having that opportunity. So where are those opportunities for development? Where do developers choose to work? And trying to encourage that, throughout the county. You are correct, all of you. Affordable housing is an issue across the county. We are very much aware of that. And the other thing I'll just throw out there is that the resources are extremely limited. Larger development projects have very complicated capital stacks. We are very rarely a sole source funder on, a multifamily affordable housing development. So just trying to make those connections and educate folks, that's how we're all going to get it done together.
Thank you for that. And yeah, it is pretty thin.
He's so mad right now.
$17 million in grants for the entire city of almost 1 million people. So I completely empathize with that. And then I'll say that, in the past, I will see that you do listen to the counselors when they come, because I know Counselor Jackson, she's here, I think she's here, does a phenomenal
blending in
job
with the
and has
chair.
over the past couple of years raising awareness of these things. And I've seen multiple projects on here in and around her district, but would absolutely encourage as much involvement from my side. I'm more than happy to, share media, bring people in, whatever that might be. When you have, workshops, host them on my side of town as well. Fully committed to that. So thank you for the work and happy to help.
Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Without a doubt, affordable housing is certainly one of our main issues facing our city. And so I guess it's reasonable to say that I applaud the city for at least trying to tackle it as best we can with the limited funds, and realizing that the funds are very, very little there.
It's not the government's job, at least the city of Indianapolis, to be doing any of this. Of like, what's Indianapolis doing about affordable housing? What are they supposed to do? Like have government-funded housing. We already kind of do that now.
My question to you, Madam Director, is that I'm looking at the funding budget, and I see in particular on the brownfield remediation, and it's only 1% attributed to that. And at a district such as mine in Martindale, Brightwood, and 28th and Winthrop, other places have lots of issues in terms of brownfield. And I would think that brownfield remediation would help us a bit more properties available to create affordable housing. So I just wonder, is there any negotiation in this budget to move more into a brownfield remediation, or is this budget set?
We'd like to move forward with this budget. The reason that one of the things that we should have probably talked about in our presentation is another part of making these funding decisions is looking at other resources that we have available to carry out some of these projects. You are correct. Brownfield redevelopment is extremely important. It also becomes a little challenging in using these funds because some of the required steps that we have to do with the federal government. But DMD does have other resources for brownfield remediation. A lot of these funds are done more for the studies up front to prepare for that remediation, and that's because of the complications with the federal regulations. But, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Additional questions from councilors? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak to proposal number 47?
Madam Chairman, my main concern is for you people at home. You look at their budget, and over 3/4 of it is derived from grants pursuant to the homeless population here in the city and the people who are actually facing misfortune. But what I've seen over the years since I've been coming down here, we always have these affordable housing structures pled within the gifts that we give these contractors and developers, but that's unnecessary now because there's no such thing as affordable housing because the city has taken over the housing in this city and created a glut of unusable real estate. When you allow somebody to move into a $1,400 a month apartment and you pay their rent for 1 year, you're not doing them a favor, and you people that are receiving that, because when the money runs out, they run out, and I can see it all over town where this is occurring right now. I talked to one of my constable friends, and he said there is more evictions occurring in these new so-called high-rise apartments that have been funded maybe by the rescue funding to give years of free rent. And also other programs that are inviting so-called talented people to this city. There's a bunch of that going on in Fountain Square and actually giving them $7,000 to start their new life here in this city. Well, I know that my parents never done that to me, but some of you younger parents may be doing it to your own kids, and that's destroying them because I consider what you're giving them is poisonous. It really is poisonous because you're depriving them of the knowledge of how to make it on their own. Even the young college students, even the young couples that are buying these houses that they can't afford, they're leaving the closing table with $40,000 from these so-called affordable housing grants. But it's just a dangerous path to go down.
Thank you. Thank you. Additional
Well said,
comments
Larry
regarding
Vaughn.
proposal number
Well
47?
said.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Hasser. I'm with the Indianapolis Neighborhood Housing Partnership, speaking in
Larry
favor
Vaughn,
of,
are you leaving?
the proposal
No.
today. I just wanted to add a couple additional comments. First is, again, to thank the staff. That is one of the things that even organizations like myself and others, even when we're not funded, I think DMD staff does an excellent job talking to us, explaining why and how we can improve for projects in the future. And that education really becomes transformative in the projects to make them better for our clients and our families that we're working for. The other thing as it relates to areas that are not funded, I think another one of the strengths of Indianapolis is the peer sharing amongst community organizations. So even when they work with the DMD staff, I know myself, other entities here in the audience, we're always willing to peer share. So it's a very unique scenario where we're competing all for a very limited source of funds, but we're still all trying to work together to make sure we're working together and providing the best projects that we can. So if there are projects or entities that are interested in learning more, I know I speak for myself and others where we would be happy to talk through our experiences and how we might be able to navigate that together. The last thing I wanted to speak with as well was as it relates to the projects that aren't going to be shown on the map in terms of the dots, things like down payment assistance or owner-occupied repair. INHP is a provider of both across the entire county. So even though they might not be transformative projects that turn a vacant lot into a new home, sometimes we're providing furnaces, we're providing that down payment assistance to purchase that house when
Thank you, taxpayers.
as well. So there are things that are happening within the areas, even if they're not necessarily shown in those cases. So thank you. I just want to speak on those. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Additional comments on proposal number 47?
Good evening, Madam Chair and committee. My name is Leslie Kelly. I'm the Director of Programs at Horizon House. I've been in that position almost 16 years. I would say that the crisis that we have in affordable housing right now is the worst that I have seen since I came to Horizon House in 2008. The action plan that you have before you may not be perfect, but I would urge you to support it. We need all the help we can get through all of the different programs and opportunities that Jenny and Beth described. As far as locations, one of the projects that we have at Horizon House or programs is scattered site permanent supportive housing. So with that program, we are using IHA vouchers and providing intensive case management services to the individuals or families that we get into housing, and they live anywhere in Marion County. So they may or may not be represented on that map. I would also encourage any of you, if there are needs in your district that you would love to see developers and service providers coming together to address, please reach out to us, either through DMD or directly to agencies. We had a project that we were trying to work with on the west side recently, last summer, and community members didn't want the project in
Jared,
the community.
Where are you at, pal?
So we are more than happy to talk to you and try to figure out where we can go. The last thing I'll say is that we have a permanent supportive housing program that will be opening in July, hopefully by the end of July, located immediately adjacent to our facility. It's permanent supportive housing. I would love to see us have one of those on every side of town, and we'd love to work with you on that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Additional speakers regarding proposal number 47?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Kelly Margot. I am with the president of Southeast Neighborhood Developments, and we are a recipient of both the home and the CDBG, and I just want to echo the other comments. We are in a crisis that existed before the pandemic. It is a reality. We do believe at SEN that housing is a right for everyone, and there's just not enough dollars and there's not enough resources, and without the funding that is being proposed tonight, if we're not supporting it, we're just hurting a crisis already in place. So I just encourage you to support it because we need all the help that we can get. It takes every affordable housing developer, and we're still barely making a dent. So if we do not approve these funds, we're hurting people that just don't have a house right now and have a home. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Jackson?
Thank you. I'm in full support of this proposal. Unfortunately, I will not be able, I have to recuse myself tonight. I won't be able to vote. Thank you so much.
Additional comments?
You just wait until all those illegals start showing up in Indy, and it's going to get way worse.
Just Brian Cartman with Near North Development Corporation. We're a recipient of CDBG and home funding as well. Just want to reiterate everything you've already heard from colleagues in our industry. Thank DMD staff. Some of these projects we're talking about, as alluded to, $33 million projects, 1.65 comes from the city. It's very difficult to put a lot of these financing packages together. It gets very complicated, and DMD staff has been very supportive of helping us get across the finish line. The M22 project, which you saw, is 127 units of affordable housing that we'll bring to the Meridian Highland and surrounding neighborhoods. Again, it's a game changer for our neighborhoods that have been historically disinvested in, and so I just want to thank DMD staff for their support. Much to what Jeff Hasser said before, for other districts that are not included in these funding rounds, I know our organizations get together, send, and other CDCs, we all talk about best practices to get some of these projects. So happy to share my information and help any of the other CDCs in your areas. So.
Thank you.
You know, the one thing that they do not talk about is how much is the actual rent then? Like, it's affordable housing. Okay, well, what is affordable then? Is it only a certain amount of market? And then the people that own them, their landlords or the property owners or the business owners, like, are they getting are they getting money from the government to have these kind of affordable housing? Good questions. I think
Anyone
that should be
else
answered.
Yep. Comments regarding proposal number 47? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. Councilor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we send proposal number 47, which approves amounts, locations, and programmatic operations of certain projects to be funded by Community Development Grants funds to the full council for final adoption.
You okay over there, pal?
Motion been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Thank you so much for your presentation.